or anything about the shooter's identity so far, although according to the Associated Press, as per their conversation with the Attorney General of Butler County, that shooter has been killed. So that is all that we know right now, according to the Associated Press. CBC is not able to independently verify these reports. For more now, we're joined by Julia Manchester. She's a reporter for The Hill, and she joins us from Washington. Julia, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Julia, what is the latest that you've been hearing about this situation?
Well, the latest is that we know that President Trump has been taken to a hospital. We were told he is fine, but one interesting thing is we haven't been told what the extent of his injuries are or if he was injured. It appeared that there was blood on his face, but we just don't know that yet. So, kind of hard to make an assumption based off of that. We're listening to, to hear more updates. And we know that right now, officials have described this as a potential assassination attempt, or that's a word that is being thrown around by officials on U.S. media this evening. So that's something we're really looking out for as well. We know that the shooter has been confirmed dead in this, and also there's been reports that another person was shot and killed at this rally as well. So that's what we're looking out for, and really watching for political reactions from high-ranking officials. And it seems that there is a bipartisan groundswell of support on social media, are essentially saying they're Republicans and Democrats saying they are praying for President Trump, that there is no place for political violence in this country.
We've been talking to our Washington correspondents who've been covering American politics for a while about their thoughts. What were your initial thoughts when you first heard?
I was shocked, but I can't say I was necessarily surprised. I think there's, ever since going back to, the shooting of Steve Scalise, the House Majority Leader in 2017, and we know that Senator Rand Paul, has also been attacked. We know that there have been other countries where they've seen leaders or members of parliament, legislators attacked as well. The violence on January 6th. I think there is a feeling that political violence is on the rise, not only in America, but around the world as well. So that's something, I think, unfortunately, a lot of us were expecting. And just given the rhetoric, the rise in rhetoric, political rhetoric over this past year alone in this election cycle, I think a lot of us were looking at this, and, this was a fear of ours, and it's come true. I think there's definitely a need for, potentially a mediating voice here, someone to calm the nation now. I see on social media, there are Republicans and some Democrats saying now would be a good time for the president to address the nation, President Biden. We don't know whether that's happened. We know that he has been briefed, but right now I think there is a lot of fear about what this really chaotic election cycle will look like going forward here in the U.S.
Actually, just as we are speaking right now, we got a statement from President Biden from the White House press office. I'm going to just read it out here. I have been briefed on the shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to hear he is safe and doing well. I'm praying for him and his family and for all those who were at the rally as we await further information. Jill and I are grateful to the Secret Service for getting him to safety. There's no place for this kind of violence in America. We must unite as one nation to condemn it. So this is just a statement that came out from President Joe Biden. I'm sure we will be hearing more soon. Other statements have come from political leaders and lawmakers from both sides of the aisle, expressing their gratitude that he is alive and he's doing well, and also condemning this kind of gun violence. I also want to say that there's more details coming out now from Associated Press about where this shooter might have been killed. According to Associated Press in Washington, law enforcement officials say shooter was outside the Trump rally and was killed by the U.S. Secret Service. So we're getting a little more information where this person was, how Paul Hunter and our other correspondents have told us about how difficult it is, how tough security is at these rallies, that you have to go through metal detectors, that it is really, someone must have been very highly motivated and perhaps has been planning this for a long time to be able to bypass all that. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more in the hours to come about the motivation of this person and just how they were able to fire that shot. But according to Associated Press, the shooter has been killed, and law enforcement officials say that this person was outside Trump rally and was killed by U.S. Secret Service. I want to ask you, what happens next? Not necessarily in terms of the investigation. I guess we will find out more of those details on the motivation, on how this took place. But how do you see this playing out in what was already such a divided, highly emotive state in American politics, as we're looking to the next few months before the election, and even just 48 hours before a Republican National Convention was supposed to take place? How do you see this playing out?
Right. So we don't really know what this is going to look like going forward. And I don't want to speculate as to how President Trump is going to use this. I think that would be irresponsible. But I do know that a lot of, high profile Republican figures, Republican organizations, including the National Senate Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee, has tweeted that photo of President Trump, a photo that's being shared widely on X, formerly known as Twitter, of him seemingly raising his fist in the air after, there was blood seen on his face, Secret Service surrounding him. So, I am curious. We're watching these reactions come in. We don't know what the, next step forward is for the Trump campaign, but we do know that he was supposed to announce his vice presidential pick either today or, in the coming days, at least by the Republican National Convention. So this will put, another shadow over this. And it comes at a time when we have on the other side of the aisle President Biden facing just a disastrous news cycle here in the US over the past 2 weeks as questions and concerns mount over his age and fitness for office. So we have just seen with this campaign cycle so many twists and turns and a lot of worry and anxiety that this among Americans, that this event, what has happened today, will only unfortunately fuel. So we'll be looking out, but I think the RNC, that will be fascinating and interesting, I think, to see what happens there, because you bring up a very good point about security measures. Security is already tight when you have events with presidents and former presidents. But as you correctly pointed out, someone was able to bring a gun into this event, or at least bring a gun into the proximity of this event, and people were injured, and people, someone besides the shooter might have been killed. That's not confirmed yet. So going into Milwaukee, I would imagine at the RNC, I imagine there's going to be very tight security, a lot of anxiety, and potentially this feeling of defiance and wanting to rally around President Trump among his supporters.
Julia, thank you so much for your time and your analysis. I'm sure we'll be checking in with you in the days to come.